Okay, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Did you guys talk about objects?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, come again, sorry. Okay. So Abigail and Ada, any contributions from you? Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's actually what what OOP is mostly all about. Can we hear from Ada before we just start up? She don't come out. Is Ada here? All right, all right, all right. Okay, okay. Basically, the term for everything we've been doing since last week is what's called OOP. That's the short for object-oriented programming. It basically means that everything we'll be doing is object-oriented. Let me put it that way for now. So Java as a language is an object-oriented programming language in the sense that everything, most of the things I would say you'll be doing with the language is having to do with objects of type object. You guys remember when we started, I listed out some of those primitive type data that included integer, boolean, double floats, the character, and the rest of them. So these are just the basic, the old primitive type of representing data. But in OOP, the object, we will be needing to make use of objects for everything we'll be doing. So there are some other programming languages which will make use of objects. Another popular one is the C sharp. C sharp. That's another programming language. So the good thing about these languages and the good thing about you learning them is that currently they are one of the most demanding one of the most demanded, not demanded, one of the most demanded language in programming industry in Nigeria in particular. So Nigeria is limited to what it can do with tech, basically, compared to other countries or other outside world like USA and the rest of them. So the good thing is that you guys chose Java, and if peradventure you intend to actually pursue a career in this thing, it's great that you started here. That you started here, yeah, because most of the industries, what they make use of what they make use of is object oriented languages. Java is one of them. C sharp is one of them. A couple other ones, Kotlin, and the rest of them. And at the moment, what they make use of is mostly for web web applications. So basically, having to do with the back end side of programming. You realize that everything we are doing is oriented to the back end. not the front end. The front end is basically the define define websites that you see. Everything that having to do with the eyes, what you visualize, the way responses come up, the way pages load, everything. All those ones are having to do with the front end. But the data that is supplied, which the front end presents to you, actually come from somewhere, and that's what's called backend. So every manipulation, every calculation, every arithmetic that happens background is what programming languages like Java help to do. Yeah. So we also have now I'm talking about programming languages. Now we also have JavaScript. This is not object oriented. Yeah, welcome Jennifer. So we also have JavaScript. I was saying this is not object oriented in the sense that you will see how we deal with object for the most of the rest of our courses now. JavaScript doesn't work like that. So the why JavaScript is popular is because it's mostly used for the front end development and also for back end development. But for the most part, it's not object oriented. Yeah, it's more it does what's called functional programming. Although to some extent it can imitate what object programming languages can do, but for the most part, that's not what it's designed. What's designed to do. So if you want to do object-oriented things, you choose languages like Java, C Sharp, Kotlin, Swift. Swift is for Apple Apple applications, iOS applications. So Java is for Android, mobile phones, and also for web application. Okay. So the thing is, you would hear terms such as class. You've been introduced to that one. You hear terms such as uh, encapsulation, polymorphism, inheritance, objects. You hear terms such as override, overload. So these things are terms that are associated with object programming in general, and you'd be making use of them throughout. Okay, I would just run through. I would have to run through some of the things we've done last week, so I understand that we're on the same page. So I understand we're on the same page. Can you guys see my screen? Can you see my screen? Okay. Okay. Actually, I was doing something before this class, so I would quickly use this environment to do what I was doing. So in object programming, let's start off from there. Don't mind my naming convention. I will just leave this. Okay, let me rename this for the sake of my explanation, so it makes more sense. So I will rename this to let me say human. Human. Okay. So in object program, sorry. So we have to we have to create a class for any object that we intend to create. So you can't have a class without you can't have an object without having a class from which it is created from. So in class, you define all the attributes, you define all the properties which you want the object to have. So for this case now, I would call my class human, and before I create a human being, now human being will be the object. I would need to have in mind what I want that human, say man or woman, to possess. So I'll need to have in mind what I want that my object that I'm creating. I would need to have in mind what I want it to possess. So usually we can represent these things in what's called the field variable and the method. So field variable is basically those ones that you see they write here, say private string name, private string name. So anytime you see something annotated, written like this, basically, this is what they mean by attributes or field variables. So the reason why they include that field is because it's not inside the method; it's standing on its own, and usually they go with access modifiers like I've put here, private. That's not to say that if I remove this private, it will still not work. It would work, but there's a reason why we use access modifiers. I call them access modifiers because they restrict or grant your access to this variable called name. You will see how that works in the future, or you probably done it already. But I'll keep it here for now. So this is what's called field variable. Then the other thing which a class has is what's called the method. You already know what method is, and also known as function. So anything that is secreted this way is called a method or function. So remember what we have here is human, class human. And human, what do they have? They have name. Or what else can they do? They can eat. They can eat basically. So here you can define how they perform the action of eating. You can perform how they perform the action of eating. So this is a simplified term, a simplified example. I'll just simply print in the console that human is eating. Let's not exaggerate things. So I'll just keep it this way and say that human is eating. So this method tells you what action a human can carry. We can have other methods, say run, run, and then inside here you perform the action. They perform how the human runs. So now what I've just done is to define the blueprint how a human should be created. This is basically what I've done. I've not created something out of human now, and we are coming to that. But before I do that, I would like to I would like to create other types of human. I would like to create objects from human class. Remember, I said this is a blueprint, and this basically is not workable with. You would need to create something out of this thing before you can make use of it. But before we create an object, like I said, let's create another instance. Let's create another class called man, and we could as well create another class called woman. Now, because man is a type of human, we simply extend the properties from human. So basically by doing this, told we've told this program that this man is actually should have the properties which human has, and which property inside it we also have the property of eat. Man can eat. We also say that man can run. So we also say that a man can run. Now we could go ahead and create another object called woman. So for the want of time, I would not go ahead to start creating all of this thing I've mentioned. So what I can do now is to create an object out of those classes that I've created before. I could decide to create an object from human, but I could also decide to create an object from man. And to do that, you follow the step that you're seeing on the screen. To do that, you specify that I want to create an object from man. And this basically, this one you're seeing here is basically a variable name. I could have called it anything, but I would keep the variable as man for now. And to create an object, each time you create an object, you make use of the keyword new. And now, you pass in the constructor. I'm coming to constructor now. You pass in the constructor that is needed to create the object. So by doing this, I've created an object out of that class that I established earlier. And that object is what this is. This what I called man. I could go ahead and call this just anything. Just anything. Man obj. Man object. I'll keep it at this. So by doing this, I can now implement all the properties that are specified here, which is what that a man can eat, and also a man can run. And this, observe that I didn't put anything under here. Observe that I didn't put anything under here. But by doing this, just this here, it's as though I carried everything here and put inside here. I wouldn't need to write it again. There are instances where you may not want to, where you may not want our man to work the way we described it inside here. That's by just printing human is eating. The instances where you may not want it to act like that, and you go ahead to define the way you want it to behave, basically. But we're coming to that. So I want to talk about constructors now. Constructor. In this example I've done so far, we have what's called constructor. But I didn't explicitly type it out. And that's because the Java program does it underground for us. But we can go ahead and specify it ourselves. Usually constructor comes after the field variables here. And how to do that is by using public, the class name, and then the curly braces. So this constructor is more like a method, but it's a special type of method. The constructor works anytime an instance of an object is created. Constructor works anytime an instance of an object is created. So basically this thing as it is now, whenever I create an object out of this class human, this constructor runs. But because there's nothing within the curly braces, that's this open and closing parentheses, nothing actually happens. But we can go ahead and define some things that we want to happen. Remember when you call a method, everything that's inside the block of code runs. In the same way, this constructor acts like that, basically. But it only gets called anytime an object is created. So it's possible that I want that anytime I create an object out of this class called human, it's possible that I want to give it a name. It's possible that I want to give it a name. In which case, I would, for example, tell it that I want this field name to take whatever value I pass in here anytime I call this method or constructor. Always remember that this constructor can be seen as a method, but it's a special type of method. I could say name to be equal to name. So what this means that I'm taking the name that I'm passing here and assigning it to this variable here called name. And in most cases, you always come across this keyword. You would come across this keyword. But I'm coming to explain this to you. You probably already know what it does, but I'm coming to do that. So if we go to our test 2, this place that we created an instance of man, of man, yeah, of man. Okay, let's keep this by the side. I could go ahead and decide that I want to create an instance of human and give it a name of human, or say human obj equal to new human, right? If you look here, it's complaining that it needs something. If you look closely, let me zoom this in. There's a red underline in here. I believe you guys can see it. Could anyone suggest why this red underlining is showing? Any ideas? Forget about this smart object I've created here now. This is what I'm talking about. There's a red underlining here. There's a reason for that. Any ideas? Are you guys here? Any suggestions? Okay, let me go to, maybe going to human will help you know, right? Are you guys even here? Jennifer, I never hear your voice today. Ada, if you go to this place where I created an object out of human, it's complaining and showing a red underlining here. There's a reason for that. Bukola, Abigail, Ada, Chidema is not here. Or is she? No, she's not. All right. So the reason for that is, remember I told you that this constructor is also a method, but a special type of method. And remember that anytime you want to make use of a method, if it takes in a parameter, you must enter that parameter. You must enter an argument for that method. Now, because this is a method, but a special type of method, like I've always mentioned, and now you're telling it that you must have to supply one argument for the name, and therefore you should expect one argument anytime it's created. So it then means that here you should have supplied a name, say Mercy. So it then means that this human has a name called Mercy. So basically that's what it means. Give me a second. So this object called human object has a name called Mercy. This should stop complaining now. All right. Now there's also a reason why this is complaining, but I'll come to that. I'll come to that later. But for now, you've created an object out of the human class, and now you're telling it that this object should carry the name Mercy. Okay. Now coming to this keyword. So this keyword is, wait, could someone explain what it means to create an object out of a class before I explain what this keyword does? Any idea? I want to hear in your own words before I go ahead. from a class. Any ideas? Any ideas? Let me remove this for now so it stops complaining. So creating an object from a class basically means taking all of the properties that are defined in that class and attaching it to, I don't know the best word to use for it. I don't know the best word to use for it. So, yeah, and do you have something to? Yes, it's more like it, but now you're attaching it to a particular thing, and that particular, no, you're attaching it to like a handle. Yeah. So in this case, we called it human object. So this human object has all of the properties that I've defined under here. So I could as well create many other objects. Like you yourself, Jennifer just spoke, you are object of human, basically. Ada is another object of human. But the thing now is I could go ahead and create another object. I could call it human obj2. I'll call it that it is a new object of what? Human. But now the name will change. But every property that Mercy has, John has. So this is an instance of the class human. This is another instance of the class human. But now they have different properties. In this case, the name of this object is called Mercy. The name of this other object is called John. But essentially, they perform the same tasks that are defined here, except we say otherwise. Does it make sense? Bukola, Abigail, Ada, are they here? I want to hear from you before I continue. Abigail, Bukola, and Ada. Ah, you guys speak up now. I mean, my mic is muted. Abigail, Bukola, and Ada. You have to speak up before I start continue. Ah, who responded? Okay, Bukola and Ada. I've not heard from you. We're waiting. No, Abigail left the class. All right, all right. So basically, I've created two objects from the human class. So what you're seeing here is more like a reference to this object that I created that has the properties of human with the name John. This one you're seeing here is a reference to the object that I've created here that has the property of human with the name Mercy. Now it's possible that I want to see how Mercy eats. It's possible that I want to see how Mercy eats, and to do that, sorry, and to do that, sorry, dot. To do that, you can see the suggestion that is giving me here. It has two methods, which is it and run. And these are the two that I defined. And these other inbuilt methods are coming from Java because they are treated as objects. This other one you would get to understand it later. But these first two you're seeing here, the eat and run, are coming from here, the eat and run. Because I specified that a human can eat and a human can as well run. Alright. Now print if I print on the system on my console, what I would simply see is that human is eating. I can decide to see the name of the person who is eating. I could do this by simply taking in the name from here. I could say name plus, and if I print this on here, okay, let me do the two of them before I print anything. But this time around, it will be John. One second. I'm trying to print on the console. One second. All right. Now I've printed these two things now on the system. It. Now if you look, the names here are Mercy and John. And that's because I defined under here that it should pick the name from this field and print it to the console basically. So if I print on the console, it takes the name that I'm passing here and attaches it to this field called name and prints it to the console. Now let's get back to this keyword so it makes sense to you. Now, if you observe, I created an object. These two places, basically, I've created two objects from the human class. Now, anytime I create an object, this keyword you're seeing here is basically referring to that particular object. This keyword. So when I'm dealing with Mercy, it's referring to that object of Mercy. When I'm dealing with John, it's referring to that object of John. So this keyword refers to any object that is acting with it at that point in particular. Now, when I created the constructor, I passed in the name, and I'm telling you that that name you passed into it, take it as and put it to. Basically, what this line is doing is it's taking that name. In the first case, it was Mercy, and I'm telling you that that object that I'm creating, let the name be Mercy. So this dot Mercy is what this dot name is equal to Mercy. Is basically what this is doing. So under hood, this is more like name is equal to Mercy. And for the other situation, it would be name is equal to John. So for each time I am acting with an object, that object is what's referred to by this keyword, that I'm acting with you, that I'm dealing with it. If you've written Python code, they don't use this keyword. Instead, it is self, referring to the particular object which you created from the class. Now, if you look, I made use of name here, and it still worked fine. And it took it from this field variable here. Now, if I had put this here, it also worked fine. It would also work fine because it understands that now I'm working with the particular object of mercy, and it takes it's more like the object dot name, which in this case would be mercy. So I wouldn't want to go further with this keyword. It will make full sense to you if it's actually not making sense to you now. I'll give you a resource that could help you. But does it make sense to any of you? Are you serious? What about the other two? Okay, Bukola is back. Okay, okay. It actually did not make sense to me the first time I learned it. Some things shouldn't make sense to you the first time you learn it. And it's normal in programming. Yeah, yeah. But it's not all essential at this point. But just know that if, for example, I had more field variables, say private, I could call this age because age is a number and is a whole number. So I could use int to represent it. I could use integer to represent it. Let me remove this. I don't need it now. So it's possible that I could tell it that anytime you're creating a human object, you must have to supply the age as well. You must have to supply the age as well. Now this is complain because I created the human object here and I'm not supplying the age. And that's because I just put the option for age down. Sorry. That's because I just put the option for age just now. So I could tell it that I want Messi to be 25 years old and I want John to be 18 years old. Someone unmuted, any question? Your network is breaking, Bukola. I can't quite hear you. Alright. So now I've supplied the age for this human, Mercy basically. I've supplied the age here, the age for John as well. But I'm not doing anything with it. But it doesn't make sense that I've created this thing and passed it. I'm not doing anything with it. Now I could want to attach that name, that age to this field variable. Basically for and attach it that I want this object to carry whatever age I pass here. So this what I've just done is created a full-blown object from this class. It has a name, it has age as well. If I commented this out or if I removed it, what I've done is I've created half human with name, but I've not attached any age to it. I've not attached age to it. So to do that, you just follow the line that we created earlier on. Control Z. Now I'm carrying the age I passed in. For Mercy, it will be 25, and I'm attaching it to the instance of the object. Now this of the object of Mercy has name as well, age, and for John it will have name as well, age. Now if I remove these two things, if I remove these two things, life will still be good. But it's still not. It doesn't make sense that I've created an instance of a human and then it doesn't have name, it doesn't have age. So what I'm doing by what I did here, these two lines, is that I'm carrying the name and the age and attaching it to the object whenever it's created. So this line here is what does the attachment, is what does the assignment. Is this okay? Are you guys there? Anyway, Huh? You're getting confused in a little bit. No, it's uh, mm, okay, okay. Don't worry, go through the resources after I drop it. When I drop it in the group, this thing. I also have okay. I'll scour the internet to see what also helps to in understanding this. Because me too, it didn't make full sense to me. It was later when I revisited it. But when I started programming, I didn't do it all at once. I gave it some time, then came back. That was when many things were making sense to me. I'm not telling you to do the same. If you leave it, to leave it. Okay. 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 Now it's possible that I want to print the the age of this nigga here and tell it to print age. It's possible that I want to print and know what the age is. I could tell it print age for me. Now what I want is to okay, basically this dot age. This dot age. So it will look for the age of this guy and print it for me. Now let me show you guys something. Let me show you something. I could do human dot print age. Before I do that, I would try. Let me just remove this line. That's what I was telling you guys earlier. I've only assigned. I've only passed in the on here. I've only passed in the age, but I've not assigned it to this object. And if you try to print it, you see the error it will give you. And this is the line I'm trying to work with. I'm trying to do human dot print age. Okay, now it has printed 0. Now the age is 0. And that's because Java, anytime I create an instance, anytime I create a variable of age, underground Java passes a default value of 0 to it. I didn't quite show what I wanted. It didn't demonstrate what I wanted to show you guys. I expected it to throw an error for us because I didn't supply the age, but it's fine. And this is okay because Java, it didn't show the error because underground Java, anytime I create a value here, a variable here, Java goes underground and do something like this kind of thing. So if I print again, this is the same thing to give me. So basically, this is place I'm trying to print the age. Print age for me, and then it takes the age that I created here. But it's possible that I don't want to assign a 0 to it. It's possible that I want to give it an actual age. And in this case, we simply do the assignment here with this line. Now, if I go ahead and print, after I've created an instance of the instance of human, I called it John with age 18. If I print, the age now should be 18. This. Yeah, so that's it for creating object out of a class. Have you guys talked? Have you talked about access modifiers? This private, public, this private and public you can see in all the places. Have you guys talked about what it does, or do you know what it does? I was thinking that you guys must have touched it last week also. You didn't touch it, or you did, but you forgotten. Okay, this is what's called access modifiers. So this thing I called private here. I'm doing it because I want to make use of it only within this human class. If you observe, I'm making use of the variable age as well as name, and it's all fine. And that's because we are within the same class. If I came outside here and did something like let's say human dot age, this would complain. Let's say I want to get the age. Let's say int I'll call this age equal to human dot age. So what I'm trying to do here is to get the age from human. This is complaining. The reason for that is because I made this private. Private means that I want it to be touched only when I'm inside this class. Public means that I want this to be accessed even when I'm outside of this class. If you observe this, the eat, the print, the run, they're all publics. And that's because I made they're all accessible here. That's because I made it public. Now consider that I make this print age private. Now I come back here. Now this is throwing an error under here. This red underline you see here is giving me error. If you read it, you tell me that print age has private access and blah 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 blah. So it's telling me that it has private access and therefore I cannot touch it. So to do that, what I could do is to change this to public. And for the age, to access the age, what I could do is to change this to public. So these things are called access modifiers. So you see it has stopped complaining. Now able to access the age from here and assign that value to this other variable age. Remember, this is always a variable. Or when creating a variable, you can call it anything. I could have called it I. Now I'm taking that. I'm able to access that age because I made it public. Observe, I changed it to public. What if I change it back to private? Now it's complaining. It's complaining again. So private means that I want it to be touched only when I'm inside this class. Outside of it, it should give you error. It shouldn't be reachable. So for the most part, when you're working with field variables like this, you want to keep them private. You want to keep them private. In rare cases, you may want to leave them as public. Now, since this is private, how then can we get the values if we are not inside of this class? Let me remove this. How then can we get the values if we are not inside of this class? That's when the idea of getter and setter comes in. So getters and setters in Java is basically a way of accessing the age and the name whenever we are not inside of the class. So what the getter does is to get the value. What the setter does is to update the value as we like. Because we say that this thing should be private. Now, how does getter setter work? It works like this. Public void. Now, let me do for the setter first. Set age. Java is too smart and it understands that what I'm trying to do is to set the age or the name. I only typed SE and it's giving me suggestion. So I will go with set name. So we could go with string name. and I'll tell you that this dot name is equal to whatever name I passed to it. I can as well do, and then I'll do the getter. I'm coming to talk more on this getter. Now I'll do just get age, get name rather, get, okay, now it's complaining because I made this void. Now usually when you're doing get, the return type should be the return type of what you're trying to get, and in this case is name. And I observe that it didn't give me suggestion of get name before, and that's because I told this to be void. I tried to do get name, and it's not suggesting. Now if I change this to string, Java would understand and know that what I'm trying to do is to do the get name. So usually getter does not take any parameter. For instance, it just returns this dot name. Now the concept of this getter and setter again comes because we made this field private. And you saw that when we try to access it here, that it is complaining. But it's possible that we may want to make use of the age. And now it's complaining. Now how do we get it? We make use of this getter one, this getter method you're seeing here. So what the getter does is to capture the value for that field that was set as private. Now we've done for the name. Now let's do for the age. We do for the age. Tell it that public. We do the setter first. Set age. Now it's suggesting for early age because it knows that I've done for set name. Now public um, age, because age is of type integer, so we expect to be passing it as integer something. So it will be this dot age equal to whatever age I'm passing in. So the idea is that I may want to update the age later. For John, who is 18 years, I may want to update the age from 18 to 19. So to do that, because I cannot access this age straight up, I could do, for example, if it were public, if for example, if for example John's age was public and accessible, what we could have done was human obj.age equal to give it the new age. Now because this age is not accessible, it's showing red. If we went ahead to, where is it? If we went ahead to make this public, that red will disappear. Now modify John's age, which was originally 18 when we created him, to what? 19. So because we want to keep all these field variables as private, we want to keep them as private. Now we have to introduce the concept of getter setter. Now I've done for the set. Now what about the get? This one returns the guy's age, which is of type integer age. And usually it takes in nothing. And it returns what? This dot age. So this guy here returns age. Let me write it on top. Returns the object's age. So this one returns the object, or rather, this one sets. Set is always returning void, because all we're doing is to modify the field, this thing, the field name. So set the object age, yeah. So this other one, the getter, this one returns the object name. So this other one, we set the object, rather, set the object name. Okay. Now let's get back to here. Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Z. Now, with the concept of what I've just done here, I said that this one returns the guy's name, and this one returns the guy's this one returns the guy's name, this one returns the guy's age. What can we do to get this guy's age? What can we do to get OBJ's age? Any answer? Any answer? The concept of the getter and the setter. Remember, the setter updates the value. The getter returns something for us. What can we do to know what John's age or Mercy's age is? And I don't crash. Yes, but this, yeah, that's what I asked. But I want to know John's own first before we go to Mercy. Because you may hear, but okay, the reason for okay is actually console, not terminal. Yeah, the reason for that terminal is this other one. This other one you're seeing here, the one that shows you the part UIN, blah blah blah. So, cause yeah, but it's okay. At least you know what those things. So the reason for that is I ran only one command to know what John's age is here, and I didn't run the command to know what human's Mercy's age is here. If I run this thing again, it will give me 18 and 20, 18 and 25. 18 because this one comes first. That's OBJ2. Then 25 for Mercy. But the question is, how do I get? How do for it? Okay, let me remove this. This one, what this one does is printing the age. So what this one does is printing the age. Now, what I want to know, okay, say for example, this method is not here. This method is not here. How do I get their age, their ages? How do I get John's age? With it, or can I say name? This will show red also. How do I get John's name? This object called human. How do I know the guy's name? This dot name. Okay, okay. This you use this only within the when you're creating the class, the blueprint. So what I'm saying is we have this method here. This method updates the name. It's possible that I may want to remember when we created this object here, we gave it the name of Mercy. It's possible that I may want to change she got married. Say for example she got married. I want to change the name to something else. From Mercy to Love It or something. Initially when we created our object and stored it in the system, the name was Mercy. And now she has updated and changed her name to Love It. To do that, we make use of this method and passing the new name we want. So I'll just do that here. I would say, for example, human Mercy is obj1 human obj dot set name. And what I will do is to what passing love it. And now if I try to print out the if I try to print out the name, which I don't want to type it because if I type it, I'll answer you guys the question I was asking earlier. If I try to check this object's name now, it will not give me Mercy again because I've updated it here to Love It. Exactly. That's what I was looking for. So this is complaining here. Let me change it to string because the name is returning of type string. This is complaining here because I mentioned earlier because this field is private. And I want to know what the name is irrespective of its private nature. this method here, get name, is what will return the name for us. So what I could do here is get name. So if I print this name here now, what it will give me would be let me change this to human obj. That's for for mercy. If I try to let me just go straight over print it south. All right. Now what I would also want to do is to what print it before I change the name. Let me remove this. If I print human obj.get name, if I run this command, what it will give me as the name would be mercy. Now with this set method, I updated our name from being mercy to now being what love it. And because I can't get the name directly, that's in the dot name. Because I can't get it directly, I'll make use of this object here. Now this is it. The first one is mercy. Then after I updated it, after she got married, is now love it. Uh, 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 uh. All right, all right. Does this make sense? Abigail, Bukola, Ada. Ada, I don't know if she's back. She wasn't talking before. Abigail, Bukola. No, no, talk now. I can hear you. Speak up now. That's what I'm saying now. Any questions? Does it fully make sense to you? Ask a question. Okay, no question. Look at it closely, Abby. No while. Bukola, is Bukola with us? So it's important that you guys spend extra time on this particular topic. It's important you spend extra time on this particular topic. But everything you're doing henceforth will be on OOP, objects, getters, setters, all those things. Everything you'll be doing henceforth will be on it. So this has to make sense to you now. All right. So one more thing I want to talk, which you already done before, is this extend, this extend, the extends option. So this extends option is giving us the ability to carry all the properties that we defined in this class and push it to this guy, man. I may want to go ahead and create another class called woman, that extends what human as well. And now this is complaining because anytime you're creating something out of anytime you're extending a class, you're expected to pass in the constructor. Basically, what I just did here is a shortcut. If you just hover it and click, it's autofills it for you. You're all using IntelliJ. If you just hover it and click, it does the autofilling thing for you. All right, I'm coming to this. So because I said that human, anytime I create a human, this is the constructor. Where is it again? This constructor. Constructor usually has the same name as the class name. Human bar. You become a human. And usually constructor is placed not here. Let me carry it to the top. It's placed on the top just after you've done the field variables. So it's not lost. If I put it under, it could be lost and no one can easily find it. So it's usually placed after you've created these field variables here. Now I've created this constructor here now. Remember I told you is the method that runs anytime an object is created from a class. It's a method that runs anytime an object is created from a class. And now anytime I'm creating a human, I'm telling you that the human should have the properties of name and age. And now I've done man. I've done man. It's possible that a man could have something that is particular to them. Now, what I'm thinking of one example that is particular to man. Can you guys come up with one? I want it to be from me that a woman doesn't have. And a man does that a woman doesn't do. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I could have public. I can't spell again. So I could make this one to be returning boolean, and I could say has mustache. I don't know how to spell mustache, and this one takes in nothing.
Who's there?
Okay, and then what this one does is what return true because he's a man. This is not giving me options of say delete. Okay, so this anyway, this shouldn't matter. So because this is particular to man, I could tell you that it returns what it returns true. Does this make sense to you guys? Let me zoom it in. Does this make sense to you? Yeah. So I wouldn't tell it false because it's a man. A man, they do have mustache, and I call this method name has mustache, and returns true for me. So for the woman part, I could say public boolean. Boolean. I could say has mustache. I'm not sure if it's correct. I could tell it to return what? False. Because women they don't have mustache. I could also say I could also give it a property. Which other property is particular to woman? I could say uh, you guys come up with ideas. Okay, okay. Or say she's plaiting hair. Okay. I don't want to do boolean. Boolean. I want to do something more outside of boolean. That's what I mean. The return type. I don't want to do return true and return false or true. Okay. Let's say making hair. Making hair. And the return type should be void. Makes making hair. This is my typical example. So let's just say it has longer hair. Can't think of anyone. Return return. Okay, because I said this should be void and now it's complaining, so I have to change this to type boolean. So I could copy this and I come here and okay. Recall here. I'm trying to return something here. And remember what you put here. That after the public is the return type. What you put here is the return type. Void is that I don't want you to return anything. If you go back to human, if you see the set name, for example, this set name, when I call the method, I want you to run some code. But after running the block of code, don't return anything from me. So what this one does is to update the name from Mercy to Lovett. Don't return anything for me. What this one does is to return the name Lovett for me, or return the name John, or return the name Mercy. And what type we are putting here is the type of what we are returning, which in this case is string. The name is string. I know it's string because I defined it here to be string. Does it make sense to you? Now I'm telling you to return true, and true is not of type void. Instead, true is of type boolean. Void is that do not return anything. But in this case, I want to return something boolean. So I can come here and say add longer here. This one should be false. So basically, in human class, what I defined there is everything they have in common, both man and woman. But if you go to man, I'm extending human. I'm extending human. So it has everything a human has. But in this case, I'm updating the value from, I'm updating I'm adding some other things which are particular to man. So this one returns returns true for the mustache. This one returns false for the longer hair. This one, if you come here, this one is particular to woman. This one is particular to woman as well. Any question before I end this class? Who is the? I don't know. Bukola know the talk again. Uh, you, you can you can ask anytime. Yeah. Uh, I want to hear Bukola's voice, but she's not talking. I want to hear Bukola's voice, but she know the talk. Abigail, are you okay? Oh, not talk now. Abigail, Bukola, Abigail, Bukola. All right. So it should be. Is there? Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, okay. No worries. So, okay, no worries. So I'll be ending the class here. I'll be ending the class here.